Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the life divine. We are in the chapter Memory, Ego, and Self-Experience, always with our beloved Ranga. We begin today on page 530 with the line, "But this consciousness of self."
To remind you of what the subject is, Sriramda is trying to find out what consciousness is. And why is it that this consciousness that we have sometimes make you see the physical world as real and sometimes it makes you see it as unreal. So this is a problem that he is trying to solve. And he has found out that the problem is neither with the human being, nor is it something with the spirit. It is the consciousness that has to be examined. So he is examining the consciousness, and one of the main things in consciousness is, in the previous chapter, memory, ego and self-experience. This is what he is examining one by one. Okay, so now I start reading each sentence. We have done this last time. So we will look at what he is saying. But this consciousness of self, as it is timeless, so is capable also of freely regarding time as a thing reflected in it and as either the cause or the subjective field of a changing experience. So, first of all, we should be clear as to what self is. The self is a consciousness which is, you can enter into that consciousness, man can enter into that consciousness, and then he feels himself to be free of the body-mind life. He is not identified with body-mind life. He feels himself to be free. He feels himself to be in utter peace. Nothing from the physical world, nothing from anywhere is affecting him in any way. He is completely calm, peaceful, and feels himself to be infinite, and also he realizes his own eternity. He realizes that his consciousness has always been there and will always exist. So this is the experience of the self. But one thing is there is no time there and no space. You are timeless and spaceless. Time and space are experienced only in the physical world. Okay, so
Cap S.
Yes.
Cap S.
Yes.
For self.
Just like there are different levels of time, there are also different levels of space. You have physical space, you have vital space, you have mental space, and you also have spiritual space, and finally the supramental space and divine space. Even the space becomes more and more subtle and more powerful, if you want to, you can say that. Okay, so. But this consciousness of self, as it is timeless, you are in a consciousness which is static, like a video that is stuck. But the video that is stuck is motionless. Your consciousness is motionless, but you are seeing all the motion outside in the physical world. Okay, that's what he's saying. As it is timeless, so it is capable also of freely regarding time as a thing reflected in it and as either the cause or the subjective field of a changing experience. Where is the changing experience? In our body-mind life. But your consciousness is up there and watching time and body-mind life. Itself free of all problems and free of all emotions and thoughts. Nothing is affecting. No thought, no emotion. Okay? And he is looking at the time and space here, he is looking at it, there is changing experience. So he himself, his consciousness is not changing, but he is looking at the body-mind life undergoing change and mutation. Remember that here in the physical world, there is constant movement. There is nothing static. It appears to be static sometimes, but it is not, it's an illusion. Everything is changing. Even that table is changing from moment to moment. Okay, so reflected as either the cause or the subjective field of a changing experience. It is then the eternal I am. You feel yourself to be always existent outside time, you have always existed and I exist forever. That's what the I am. The unchanging consciousness. As I said, the consciousness, there is no movement, it is static consciousness, unchanging consciousness, on whose surface changes of conscious experience occur in the process of time. So you yourself are timeless, spaceless, without movement, static, and you are looking and all the action is taking place down there below, in which your body-mind life also is a part. You are looking at your own body-mind life, objectively, freely. You are not bound to the body-mind life anymore.
So even in this first spiritual realm of consciousness, there's no action?
No action.
You're
The
looking
consciousness
at it.
is not in action. The consciousness is not moving.
Yes.
It's a static consciousness.
Yes.
The body-mind life is moving, but the consciousness is not moving. Or you can say the soul. Some people make a distinction between soul and consciousness, and some others say, no, there is not really no difference, they are the same.
But between soul and self is often confusing.
The soul can go into the self. Then it becomes the self. It's a way of speaking.
Yeah.
The surface consciousness is constantly adding to its experience or rejecting from its experience, and by every addition it is modified, and by every rejection also it is modified. So, what is that? When you are looking, I am accepting certain things at the physical level, my body-mind life, but rejecting certain things. If I don't like a food, I reject. If I don't like a thought, I reject. If I don't like an emotion, I reject. I reject other people's opinions, but I also accept them. So every time I interchange, I interact rather with the universe, I am changing. We are actually changing every second. Our body is throwing out some dry cells and taking in oxygen. Every time I take in oxygen, I am changing. Okay, food I am taking. I am also rejecting. So it's constant change. And you are looking at this change. Okay? Surface changes of consciousness experience occur in the process of time. These changes occur only in time, not in the timeless. And by every addition, it is modified, and by every rejection also it is modified. Although that deeper self which supports and contains this mutation remains unmodified, the outer or superficial self is constantly developing its experience so that it can never say of itself absolutely, I am the same that I was a moment ago. I am constantly changing. Even the body is changing. You feel that the body is not changing, but it is changing. Your thoughts are changing, your mind is changing, your vital is changing. Those who live in this surface time self. So, what is that? Those who live in the surface time self. Surface time, physical. In other words, when I am living in my body-mind life. When I am living in my body-mind life, I am subject to nature and I am also subject to time and space. And I have not the habit of drawing back inward towards the immutable or the capacity of dwelling in it, are even incapable of thinking of themselves apart from this ever self-modifying mental experience. Those who live in this surface time self and have not the habit of drawing back inward, I am identified with the body-mind life. I don't know what my soul is, nor the self. I identified with the body-mind life. I don't have the habit. Where is it gone? Those who live in this time have not the habit of drawing back inward. So drawing back inward, you slowly lose your identification with body-mind life. Okay, that's a drawing back inward towards the immutable. The immutable is the self. Note, the immutable is not the psychic being. The psychic being also changes. It's in evolution. But the self is there, up there, above you. Towards the immutable or the capacity of dwelling in it. Sometimes you only have an experience and you come back, but you can live in that consciousness. Your consciousness can live forever in the self.
But it lives for the moment in that experience.
No, for the moment is eternal. So you are always there, you are seeing the changes outside yourself, but not in your consciousness. It is static. Incapable of thinking of themselves, apart from this ever modifying, ever self-modifying mental experience. So if you are here, you are not aware of yourself. If you are in the self, you are not identified with your body-mind life. Okay, so that is for them their self, and it is easy for them, if they look with detachment at its happenings, to agree with the conclusion of Buddhist nihilists that this self is in fact nothing but a stream of idea and experience and mental action, the persistent flame which is yet never the same flame, and to conclude that there is no such thing as a real self. This is the Buddhistic view, and the difference with Srimada's view or the Gita's view is this, that there can be a confusion between individual and the ego. At our level, we are confusing the two. The individuality is the ego at our level. When we think of ourselves, it's the ego. But when you are in the self, the ego disappears, because it's in time and space and you are in the timeless. So, if the ego disappears, you can also say that the individuality has disappeared in this sense. But in Sri Aurobindo's view and the Gita's view, the individuality is not ego bound anymore, but is infinite, eternal, and not located in time and space. It is everywhere. It's a cosmic individual, not the ego bound individual. When we speak of individual, we think of a limitation. We think of we are limited being, but with the true individuality is not limited. So Buddhists are saying the ego disappears and also the individuality also disappears. You can go to a level of consciousness where even individuality disappears.
Is it the same as the Advaitist view?
In
The same as the Advaitist view?
Advaitist?
Advaita.
Advaita?
Same as Buddhist?
No.
No.
The Advaita doesn't think that the physical world is unreal. The physical world is very real for the Advaita. In fact, Advaita means that, only one.
Yes.
And if the divine is one, he is also the earth and the physical world. The Buddhists reject this. Okay? So, there are three levels. Level 1, ego. Level 2, where you are in the self, your individuality is there, spaceless and timeless, but no ego. But there is a third level where even the individuality disappears. I will explain that. When you are in the consciousness of the self, you are aware that you are in the self. You know that this is the self. Who is experiencing that? The individual. So individuality is there in the level 2. But even the individuality can disappear and you become the nihil. You become zero. There is not even individuality. No features at all. That's a last. That's why they say, Buddhists say nihil. Shunyam, zero. That's the reality. The rest is all only play of time and space, and they compare it to a flame or the river. The river is the only thing that exists. The flow of time and space. Nothing else exists. And that's why they also agree to karma, that there is a karma that operates. We won't go into Buddhism because that's a whole different thing. But this is what Swami is saying. So you can agree. He's saying if you are in that self, that is for them the self, and it is easy for them, if they look with detachment at its happenings, the happenings are here, to agree with the conclusion of the Buddhist nihilists that this self is in fact nothing but a stream of idea and experience and mental action. The persistent flame which is yet never the same, and to conclude that there is no such thing as a real self, but only a flow of experience, and behind it a nihil. Okay? So there is a nihil which is permanent, and there is a flow of experience here.
But explain this flame that is never the same.
Yeah, because at every moment it is different. It is drawing in fuel from there and it is going on changing. So it is never the same. It's flickering. The flame flickers. That flame is never changing, but this flame here is constantly changing. You also compare it to a river. The river is permanent, it is flowing, but it's never the same. So that's exactly the action in the physical world. Okay, so that this is in fact nothing but a stream of idea and experience and mental action. The persistent flame, which is yet never the same flame, and to conclude that there is no such thing as a real self, but only a flow of experience and behind it. In other words, Sridhar is saying that if you are in the consciousness of the self, it is possible to come to this conclusion. It's one of the conclusions that is valid at that level for that person. But it may not be when you go to another level of consciousness. Okay? He is accepting the Buddhist view partially.
Up to that point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Up to that point it can happen.
Yes.
Okay. So this there is experience of knowledge without a knower. There you are. So the knower is the individual. There is no individual. So you become the knowledge. If you are in the consciousness of the self, you experience that you are infinite. But in the Buddhist experience, that you don't experience the infinite, you become the infinite. That's what he's saying. Okay, so there is experience of knowledge without the knower, experience of being without an existence. There are simply a number of elements, parts of a flux, without a real whole, which combine to create the illusion of a knower and knowledge and the known. So when you are here, you get the I am the knower, I have knowledge of the known, which is the world. Okay, that's possible here. But second level, you become the known, you become the infinite. And at the third level, there is only knowledge, even the knower disappears. In fact, you can say in a certain sense that you are only, there is no knowledge because there is no known. There is only the consciousness which is there, but there is nothing to be known because you are yourself everything. Knowledge by identity. You have become the whole. So knowledge is not necessary. You are yourself everything. Okay, so illusion of an existence. There is a illusion of a knower and knowledge and known. The illusion of an existent and existence. Now, what is this difference between existence and existent? Existence is the impersonal existence. The world without any person in it. Impersonal existence. But the one who is the divine is the existent. So the personal you experience it as existent. And the experience of existence. Or they can conclude that time is the only real existence and they themselves are its creatures. This is another possibility. So Sridhar spoke of the first possibility, you disappear entirely. The second is you are in the self and you watch the time here. Or there is this what he is saying now, or they can conclude that time is the only existence and they themselves are its creatures. This also is possible to experience, that time is the only reality. There is no timelessness. You can feel like that. So all these are spiritual experiences which are partial. Okay. This conclusion of an illusory existence in a real or unreal world is as inevitable to this kind of withdrawal as is the opposite conclusion of a real existence, but an illusory world to the thinker who, dwelling on the immobile self, observes everything else as a mutable not self. He comes eventually to regard the latter as a result of a deluding trick of consciousness. So he is bringing in the idea of Maya now. Okay, so the deluding trick is Maya. It's a trick of the divine. So many possibilities are there when you go to the self. So what's the last one? But an illusory world to the thinker who, dwelling in the immobile self, observes everything else as a mutable non-self. This is the experience that Sri Aurobindo had. The experience of the self, and he's seeing the physical world as unreal and only shadow play of silhouettes only. You see silhouettes and they are moving all the time. No essential reality. Empty of content and substance. You see the form, but there is no reality to it. That's what happened with Sri Aurobindo. Okay?
I have a question.
Yeah.
When Vivekananda came to him
Vivekananda.
in jail, how did he appear? In the subtle physical?
Subtle physical.
Yeah.
There is a subtle physical and there is also a physical. So he came in a subtle physical. But note interestingly that if he wanted, he could have come in the physical. After death.
Yes.
Because you have that power to do that. There are many stories of yogis who go to their disciples far away, living far away, and telling them that I have come to you not in a subtle body, but I have come to you in a physical body. And then when they disappear, there is a crackling sound and the substance disappears and then you go back. So, teleportation.
Yes.
That's possible. So, all these possibilities, the experiences are possible when you go to the self. Either a total shunyam, total zero, or you are there and the world is unreal, or the world is real and you are also in it, and that's a cosmic consciousness. All these possibilities are there. We go to the next paragraph?
Yes, let's start.
Now Sri Aurobindo is saying, remember that he is examining consciousness. He wants to know why consciousness gives you two different experiences. Experience of real world and experience of illusory world. But let us look a little at this surface consciousness without theorizing, studying it only in its facts. Absolute objective look, without involvement, without any emotion or pre-conclusions, studying it only in its facts. We see it first as a purely subjective phenomena. So what does it mean, subjective phenomena? Not a physical one, not a material one, but a subjective one. Okay? There is a constant rapid shifting of time point, which it is impossible to arrest for a moment. So what's he looking at? He is looking at the world, physical world, surface consciousness. So he is looking at the physical world and he is seeing that there is a flow of time and there is no time point, it never stops. Before you can say, it has already become the past. That's what he is saying. There is a constant rapid shifting of time point, which it is impossible to arrest for a moment. In the physical world, there is no present. By the time you say present, it has gone to past. Okay, so there is a constant rapid shifting of time point, which it is impossible to arrest for a moment. There is a constant changing, even when there is no shifting of space circumstance. Space may not change, but time is changing. Okay, so a change both in the body or form of itself, which the consciousness directly inhabits, and the environing body or form of things in which it less directly lives. The environing body or the form of things in which it less directly lives. It is, so what's he speaking of? You are in the self and you are experiencing this. You are not living fully in the body-mind life. You are living here. Your consciousness is here. You don't feel yourself to be in the body-mind life. Okay? So, it is less directly lives. Sometimes it is possible that part of your consciousness is there and part of your consciousness is here. There is a case, very interesting case of in America, where a person coming on a scooter or a motorcycle meets with an accident, and the body falls on the ground and he comes out and he is here and he feels himself to be partly here and partly in the body. So it's possible that the consciousness can divide itself like this.
Yeah, I have a friend who is experimenting with out-of-body experience.
Yeah,
And she often sees her body
that's right.
standing. Is that the witness consciousness?
The witness consciousness is self. Your witness consciousness is looking a little surface consciousness without theorizing.
Yeah.
That's a
without-
witness.
Right.
I am only watching. I am not judging.
Yes.
White is white, black is black, red is red, blue is red. I am not making a judgment of which is better, which is worse. I am just looking. So, it is equally affected by both. So, when you are in this way, that you are here and there, you are equally affected by both, Srimad is saying. Both means the consciousness of self and the consciousness in the body-mind life. It is equally affected by both, though more vividly, because directly by the smaller than by the larger habitation, by its own body than by the body of the world. So, when you are outside the body of the world, you are in the body of the world or you are in the individual body. That's what Srimad is saying. It is equally affected by both, though more vividly, because directly by the smaller than by the larger habitation, by its own body than by the body of the world. Because only of the changes in its own body is it directly conscious, and of the body of the world only indirectly through the senses and the effects of the macrocosm on the microcosm. The macrocosm is the universe and the microcosm is the individual. There is a constant change between them, constant change of the universe and the individual. And you are looking at the changes. Okay? This change of the body and the surroundings is not so insistently obvious or not so obviously rapid as the swift mutation of time. So, what she is saying, change of the body and the surroundings is not so insistently obvious. What I am today, I will be different tomorrow, but I am not very conscious of that, of the change. That's what he is saying. Of course, we are not. We feel I am the same person. So, that's what he is saying. But we see that the mental being, this change of the body and surroundings is not so insistently obvious. It can be obvious sometimes, not so insistently obvious. Look at the words. He is giving you the possibility of both. Okay. Yet it is equally real from moment to moment and equally impossible to arrest. You can never say time is going to stop. In the physical world, impossible to stop time. It goes on. But we see that the mental being only regards all this mutation so far as it produces effects upon its own mental consciousness, generates impressions and changes in its mental experience and mental body, because only through the mind can it be aware of its changing physical habitation and its changing world experience. It's the mind that is having the experience. Okay? Therefore, there is, as well as a shifting or change of time point and space field, a constant modifying change in the sum of circumstances experienced in time and space, and as a result of a constant modification of the mental personality, which is the form of our superficial or apparent self. Apparent self is the body-mind life, and the mental is taking this form. There is a constant modification of the mental personality. Even your mental personality is going on changing in the physical world. All this change of circumstance is summed up in philosophical language as causality. So, causality One thing is changing from one state to another state, and this is the cause and this is the effect. It's all linked. There is never any stoppage, but everything is linked. Okay? For in this stream of the cosmic movement, the antecedent state seems to be the cause of the subsequent state, or else this subsequent state seems to be the result of a previous action. Action of who? Of persons, objects, or forces. Yet, in fact, what we call cause may very well be only circumstance. Thus, the mind has over and above its direct self-consciousness a more or less indirect mutable self-experience, which it divides into two parts. Its subjective experience of the ever modified mental states of the personality, and its objective experience of the ever changing environment, which seems partly or wholly to cause and is yet at the same time itself affected by the workings of that personality. So, all these things are possible. You can see, and you can, the one who is watching also is also changing, the mind mental is changing. So, this is what he is saying, all these things are possible. Okay? But all this experience is at bottom subjective, for even the object and external is only known to mind in the form of subjective impressions. If the mind is not there, your body mind life may go on changing and the concept, but you are not being able to watch it happening. So that also is subjective. What you are, any circumstance that is there in the physical world, you are understanding it with your subjective being. Suppose I am going on the road and there is an accident. I experience the accident. But for me, it's my own understanding which is seeing and experiencing this. So everything in the physical world is subjective experience finally, he is saying. If the subjective is not there, that makes no sense to you. There may be an accident, but you are non-existent, nothing happens. So everything in the physical world is actually subjective experience. There is an objective experience, but that doesn't concern you. You are experiencing that subjectively. So Sri Aurobindo said in this para, let us scrutinize. Well, I am reading my own summary. So if you put it in a condensed manner, sometimes things become clearer. Otherwise it becomes confusing. Let us scrutinize the activity of the surface consciousness of body, life and mind. It is really a subjective phenomena, since all senses report to the manas, a subjective inner instrument. Everything that is happening, my senses are experiencing it. If my senses are not there, the world doesn't exist for me. So ultimately the world is only a subjective experience in myself. That's what Sri is saying. The senses gather the data from the physical world, pass it to the manas. Manas is that part of the mind which interprets the images coming in. The data coming in from the world is interpreted. This interpretation need not always be there. Suppose I am unconscious, my senses are seeing everything, but I am not being able to interpret them in terms of the physical world experience. Or take a small child. A small child is hearing his mother, seeing his mother and everything, but he doesn't understand anything because there is no interpretation yet. So the physical mind interprets what you are seeing in the physical world. And the physical mind is manas. In Indian psychology, it's called the manas. Okay? Time flows incessantly without a break. There is constant change, inner and outer. The inner is psychologically and physically, and the outer in the universe through fleeting events. Even in an apparent static condition, there is constant mutation. The mutation goes on in the physical world, but the consciousness is there. But as man experiences everything in the physical world through his mind, he is aware of all change and mutation only through his mental consciousness. This constant stream of change is what we call causality, because each event and action producing a resulting effect. Each action produces a result. Okay, so a resulting effect. But may not causality be only circumstance? Samdev is suggesting. Because when your consciousness goes to the self, there is no causality, there is no karma. You are in a static condition, so there is no causality for you. So Samdev is saying what you call causality, is it not really only a circumstance? Not causality but circumstance. Okay? So, Sage suggests that man experiences change within and without. I am myself changing, my thoughts are changing, I may have a different opinion tomorrow, I may like things, I may dislike things tomorrow, same thing. So I am changing inwardly and outwardly also everything is changing. Okay, so the world changes him and he changes the world through his actions. Ultimately, both changes, inner and outer, are purely subjective through manas, the sent mind. That's what he has said in this para. So now he comes to memory. Okay, so now here the part played by memory with an M cap, the principle of memory, increases greatly in importance. For while all that it can do for the mind with regard to its direct self-consciousness is to remind it that it existed and was the same in the past as in the present, it becomes, in our differentiated or surface self-experience, an important power linking together past and present experiences, past and present personality, preventing chaos and dissociation, and assuring the continuity of the stream in the surface mind. We discussed this earlier in the previous chapter. If memory is not there, you will not be able to link past and present. You will not even be able to have a personality. There won't be a continuous experience of past, present and all, so you will not even have a personality. You will be a floater. So it is so important. Okay? Yes, put an M cap.
Yes.
So, it is reminded that it existed and was the same in the past as in the present. It becomes, in our differentiated surface self-experience, differentiated, it becomes different. Here, they use the experience of the many. In the self, there is no differentiation. It is static. It is one. Preventing chaos and dissociation and assuring the continuity of the stream in the surface mind. Still, even here, we must not exaggerate the function of memory or ascribe to it that part of the operations of consciousness which really belongs to the activity of other power aspects of the mental being. Okay? So, what he is saying is that in the mind also, there is a physical mind, there is a vital mind and a pure mind. So, we must not exaggerate the importance of memory. We are not exaggerating. It is one part of the mental character. Okay? Not exaggerate the function of memory or ascribe to it that part of the operations of consciousness which really belongs to the activity of other power aspects of the mental being. It is not the memory alone which constitutes the ego sense. Memory is only a mediator between the sense mind and the coordinating intelligence. So he is saying there is a sense mind, but there is something in the which is a coordinating intelligence. It coordinates different experiences. The mind is capable of that. It remembers. This happened to me yesterday. Oh, therefore this is happening today. You are able to connect the two. Okay? That's what he is saying. And the coordinating intelligence. It offers to the intelligence the past data of experience which the mind holds somewhere within but cannot carry with it in its running from moment to moment on the surface. So, again I will read out the summary, okay, and we will have a clear idea of what he is saying here in this para. In the active mutability of the surface being, the function of memory becomes very important. In the self, memory becomes wide and vast, covering all past, present and future, and assures us of eternal existence. Okay? So, but in the time sequence of the world, it links these two times and ensures continuance of the personality and prevents chaos and dissociation of personality, but still we must not exaggerate its unique importance. There is also the ego which contributes to this aspect of continuance. Memory in mental man is only a link between the sense mind and the coordinating intelligence. Manastu buddhi. This is what he said in this para. Memory supplies past data to mind, but cannot carry it into the present form moment to moment on the surface. So, memory is mostly of the past. It collects, but it cannot bring that memory into the present. That's what Swami is saying. That's the reason why we forget. When it can't bring it forward, then it forgets. Okay, so this is what he said in this para. A little analysis will make this apparent. We have in all functionings of the mentality 4 elements. So he's saying the mind has got 4 elements in it. Let's see what they are. The object of mental consciousness. You are an object to me. So there is the object, or that everything outside me is the object of consciousness. Okay? The act of mental consciousness. To know that object, the mental consciousness must become active and know it. So knowledge is the act of mental consciousness. The occasion and the subject. So different occasions will give you different objects of knowledge and different way of looking at things. That's what he's saying. The occasion and the subject. We'll read further and see what he's saying. Okay. In the self-experience of the self-observing inner being, the object is always some state or movement or wave of the conscious being. Anger, grief or other emotion. These are the what is calling the object of mental consciousness. Your anger also can be object of mental consciousness, grief and other emotion. Hunger or other vital craving, impulse or inner life reaction or some form of sensation, perception or thought activity. The act, the action of knowing, okay? The act is some action of mind. The action is some kind of mental observation and conceptual valuation of this movement or wave, or else a mental sensation of it in which observation and valuation may be involved and even lost. Observation and valuation can also be lost. So that in this act of mental person, in this act, the mental person may either separate the act and the object by a distinguishing perception or confuse them together indistinguishably. We'll have to do this a little more in detail,
yes.
Because he's saying.
Maybe just read the rest.
Yeah, we are just reading it today. That is to say, he may either simply become a movement, let us put it, of angry consciousness, not at all standing back from that activity, not reflecting or observing himself, not controlling the feeling or the accompanying action. Or he may observe what he becomes and reflect on it. With this seeing or perception in his mind, I am angry. So actually what happens is, when you are angry, you identify yourself with the anger. But there can be something in you which is saying, oh, I am getting angry. Tomorrow you can say, I was angry yesterday. But can you be conscious of your anger at the time it is happening? That's what he is talking about. That's very difficult, but it is possible. If you are very, very objective and you are living in the self, you can see yourself getting angry. There is the one part of you is getting angry and one part of you is watching the anger. Normally when you are angry, you don't watch the anger. You become the anger. Okay, that's what he's saying. In the former case, the subject or mental person, the act of conscious self-experience, and the substantial angry becoming of the mind, which is the object of the self-experience, are all rolled up into one wave of conscious force and movement. That's usually what happens to us. But in the latter, there is a certain rapid analysis of its constituents, and the act of self-experience partly detaches itself from the object. Thus, by this act of partial detachment, we are able not only to experience ourselves dynamically in the becoming, in the process of movement of conscious force itself, but to stand back, perceive and observe ourselves, and if the detachment is sufficient to control our feeling and action, control to some extent our becoming. So, what he is saying, I will put it in a very simple way. He is including many other things, that's why it is complicated. Suppose I watch my body. I see. Yesterday I got a cut here, I am observing my body. I can also observe my emotions. I can observe, yesterday I was very happy, today I am not so happy. But it was yesterday, in the past. Can I experience the emotion at the time it is happening? Then there is a separation. Or look at your own thoughts. You can look at your thoughts when it is gone, when it is past. Oh, I had this thought yesterday. Okay? You are looking. But can you look at your thoughts when they are occurring? That's when the separation comes. That's what he's saying, in brief. Okay?
Thank you, Ranga.
So we'll do this one next time,
Yes.
on Monday. We'll go through this one again carefully. A little analysis. Okay?
Namaste all.